Good morning, I hope you're doing well. I thought I would make a very early start this morning because I just kind of need to get on and do it. I've been putting this off for so long. As you guys know, if you watch my other videos, I'm very good at saying, oh God, that's on my to-do list, and oh, I'll do that at some point. And I have accumulated this ridiculous to-do list of things that now have just built up to the point where they feel really quite overwhelming. And if I don't tackle them head on today, I feel like I just won't tackle them. So this video is purely dedicated to getting on top of all of the things that are scaring me, all of the things that have just been built up now to the point of feeling really intimidating because I put them off for so long. So yeah, that's what today's video is gonna be. Number one on the list, I've got some biological pest control that arrived 2 days ago, which will die if I don't put it out first thing this morning because it's not meant to be in the packet more than a day or two. So that is 100% something that I must do first. Then I have just got various things that, like I've got something on a moss pole that I need to take off and potentially chop up and combine with something else, and loads of things. I've got so many things. I will take you through all of them and we can get on top, I hope. But first, hello, hi, if you're new here, my name's Claire and this is Yoli. I make videos all about houseplant care, sharing tips and tricks I've learned over the years to help keep your plants happy and healthy. And yeah, I would have thought this will probably be quite a long video, so if you have also got stuff to get on top of, whether it's planty, whether it's household, whether it's something completely random, by all means do it along with me. We can get things done together. I always find it is so much easier to get things done when you feel like you're doing them with a friend. So yeah, fingers crossed it could be a productive day for both of us. But yes, I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. So as I say, I'm going to just start off by going around and replacing my predatory mite sachets. It's literally just the case of collecting all of the old ones and replacing them with the new ones that have just come in. And this is what I'm using primarily for pest control in my collection at the moment. These ones arrive every 6 weeks and it's working really well. It's just a case of staying on top of it and doing it quickly when they do come in. So yeah, first port of call. I'm also going to take a pencil and a scrap piece of paper with me, and I'm going to make a note of anything I see that I need to get on top of, and then I will probably work today in the order of things that I want to do least first. So then at least I know I get the most important things done as like top priority. I was wondering why it was so dark in here. But yes, cool. Let's start with this. Mealybugs quite badly actually. on my little Anthurium warocquianum, which is not a plant that you'd necessarily look at and think is super susceptible to mealybugs, but can you see there, like on those white bits on the main vein? Oh my god, no, and there's another one. Oh my goodness. I don't know how easy of an angle this is going to be to show you, but like on that new leaf that's unfurling there, see that little bit of white? So this plant is due for a water, so I'm going to water it through first, give it just like 5 minutes to drain and everything, and then I'm going to aerosol spray the hell out of it with isopropyl alcohol. Oh my god, I can see more mealybugs here. How do they pop up so quickly? Look at the tiny ones on the underside just there by my thumb. It's like blink and you'd miss them. They're so easy to spot. Oh my god, they're all around the edge of that leaf. Okay, I am very much going to stick to my list today, but I want to deal with this straight away. I'll probably, once I've watered the plant, spray it and leave it outside while I go and like get showered and ready and stuff, and then I can bring it back in and start everything else. That is the plan. Whenever you treat a plant for pests using isopropyl alcohol, if the plant also needs a water, make sure to do this first, otherwise you risk watering alcohol down into the root system and harming your plant. Seeing as my cabinet is just kind of empty space at the moment, I've been using it as a little isolation zone. I then went round to all of my plants and made a list of all the things I want to get through today. It was so cold outside this morning, I decided to make a hot breakfast to warm up, and as I was making it, it actually started to snow. This is the first snow I've seen since living here, so I got very excited. Snowing? What the heck? I thought it would be just a little flurry of snow, but no, it went on and on. I usually start my days off with the dog walk, and I was looking forward to getting Yoli out for some snow time, but I thought I'd wait for the blizzard to die down a bit first, so I decided to set my morning up well and do some skincare. FOREO have partnered with me for today's video, and this morning I used their UFO 3 to deeply hydrate and plump up my skin. A lot of you are probably familiar with FOREO by this point, as I've been using this device for well over a year now and I've seen such a huge improvement. Skincare to me has become my favourite kind of self-care, so I always feel really excited to be able to partner with a brand I truly love so much. One of my best friends also uses the FAQ 202 by FOREO, an LED light therapy mask that offers a whole host of benefits depending on the colour of light you use. She uses it to tackle specific skin concerns such as sun damage and acne scarring, and similarly to the UFO 3, it can all be controlled easily from an app in your phone. It's a great device if you're a multitasker too, as it's wireless, meaning you can get your skincare in as you go about your day. There's some fantastic Black Friday deals over at FOREO right now, and if you're interested to try any of their products, you can use my code HAVEN35 for an additional 35% off, and even unlock offers up to 50% off. I'll leave all the details you need down in the description box below, and thank you again FOREO for partnering with me. Okay, so the snow is easing off. However, quite a lot of it has settled, and it has made me realise that I must, and this is actually one of the things I didn't put on the list today, but I should have done, I must finally bring in my graveyard of plants because they are covered in snow right now. I cannot believe how much it's just snowed. It's just snowed. But before I get out and do the dog walk, I'm just going to bring those plants in. We can make some decisions shortly on what we do with them. So snowy! So yeah, I'm gonna get wrapped up nice and warm now and just do a very quick walk with Yoli, let her do everything she needs to do, and then come back, get nice and cozy and warm, and we can get on with all of the things that need to be done. We're gonna smash through them, and it's gonna be great. Yoli, you go walkies. Yes, you can. I know. The only woolly hat I can find is one that I crocheted myself last year, and I do think it looks more like a tea cozy than a hat, but it's going to be cold today, so the tea cozy it is. There's always something about snow that makes everything feel so magical, and Yoli had such a good time. However, by the end of the walk, it had started to rain, which wasn't so fun. Okay, so I thought a nice way to ease into this and get into all of the things that I'm slightly dreading would be to make some tough decisions. So I thought I would just show you quickly the plants that I brought in from the graveyard of plants outside. All of these ones have been outside for at least a month, I want to say. I'll tell you why I put each of them outside as well. But the first one is my Sansevieria metallicum. This one, as you can see, is looking raggedy and awful. I originally put this one outside. I actually don't know why I put this one outside. I actually don't know. I just don't think I was enjoying the way it was growing. I have a feeling there might have been something going wrong with it because I did also take some cuttings of this plant. And you know what? I can see at the bottom here, it has started pushing up some little pups. So I'm going to put this to one side. And I'm going to separate the pups from the mother plant here. The rest of the mother plants I'm going to throw in the bin. Shocking, I know. I'm really bad at throwing stuff away, but the reason I'm being quite brutal about that is firstly because sometimes you need to be, and secondly is because I have got all of these cuttings that I took of it here when I put the mother plant outside that have rooted, and I've been saying for ages I'm going to pot them up, and today is the day. I'm gonna pot them up in this video. How long have I been saying I'm gonna do this? Woohoo! The next one that was outside was my fishbone cactus. I know a few of you recently have asked if I still have this plant, and indeed I do, but it has been living outside for months and months and months now. I put this one outside because it had thrips really badly, and although a lot of people think of thrips as a type of pest that just affects tropical plants with kind of like softer foliage, when they get into jungle cacti, they are such a nightmare to get gone. Honestly, I sprayed this plant down multiple times and I just got to the point where I was like, I am bored. So I put it outside. And it's looking okay, you know, like it's a little bit raggedy in places. I did give it a little chop back when I was outside doing some bits with Ross just in the garden, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, something like that. I do want to keep this plant. I feel like it's been outside for long enough now. It should be pest free. I can't see any cause for concern, but to be on the safe side, I'm going to take it upstairs to the bathroom. I'm going to spray it down with isopropyl alcohol. I'm not going to water it because it is saturated. And then yeah, I'm probably going to leave it up in the bathroom by the window for about a week, which is typically what I do nowadays when I isolate plants. So yeah, that's the plan for that one. Again, I'm going to do it in a minute, so you see me do it and I'm not just putting something else on my to-do list. Very similarly, my Hawaiian palm. This one's only been outside for, I want to say a month maybe. And I do just find this one really difficult, but it was pests that I was dealing with, black thrips, and they got, in fact, is that one there? I think. I don't know if it's alive or not, but like there's a tiny little black dot just there. And I think that could be a thrip. So again, yeah, this one is gonna go up to the bathroom. I can't see, it's not riddled in the way that it was before. Obviously being outside and having natural predators present will have helped with that. And the fact it's been so cold as well. But I'm gonna take it up to the bathroom. I'm gonna give it a spray with isopropyl alcohol, and again, it can stay there in the bathroom for a little while. This works quite well if I do this next actually, because I've got some plants in the bathroom that I also need to bring down. Whew, I really am holding myself accountable today. I don't know why this stuff often, oh, this is fun, seems like such a mission. But this is quite interesting. So I was gonna say my fern leaf cactus is another one that's been outside for ages, again, because of thrips. And this isn't necessarily a good thing, but something quite cool has happened. If you look at the bottom of the leaves, and this is how long it's been outside for, they've actually turned into skeleton leaves. Can you see that? Is the camera picking that up? Look how cool that is. I mean, obviously not great for the plant. It's doing it there as well. Oh my God. I think this is probably just because the plant obviously has got hot and cold and probably too wet, and it's just got a bit smushy and has started to rot away in some areas. So I can also see the plants being like nibbled and stuff, probably by slugs and snails. So again, I'm gonna take this one up to the bathroom, do a similar thing. I'm gonna leave those sections of skeleton leaf though, because I quite like them. I think they look quite cool. And then finally, this one has been outside the longest. This is my Hoya macrophylla, and it looks absolutely awful. I put this one outside because of mealybugs. I find this a type of Hoya that is so prone to mealybugs. I feel quite sad as well because there were several sections potted in here and I just didn't act fast enough. And I'm gonna throw most of this plant away. However, I think I'm gonna keep this top section here. And in fact, got a pair of scissors. Let's make the chop right now. Let's chop from there actually to give it a little bit more space to root. So yeah, that is going. And then this I will keep. I don't know exactly what I'll do with it yet, but I feel like potentially it could be something for my cabinet when, I know I'm so good at saying this and not actually doing it, but it could be something for my cabinet when I get that going as like a big terrarium setup. For today, I'm gonna get it set up in sphagnum moss, I think, or maybe even just water to roots. But yeah, that's a really healthy section on the top somehow that has survived. So I think that is a good starting point. So I'm gonna go and do everything that I just said I was gonna do to these plants, and then we'll move on to the main ones. So I've got a few Hoyas up here that I brought up to Pest Street, and I did give them a spritz down probably about a week ago now, but they're very, very dry again. So I'm gonna just get them in the shower. I'm gonna give them a rinse off. And then as I spray down all of the other plants with isopropyl alcohol, I'm gonna give them one more spray as well, just to be on the safe side. Instead of spraying down all the foliage with the shower head, I've kind of just watered into them so that I'm not diluting the alcohol too much. Hoyas have had their final spray down, I'm bringing them out of isolation. And despite the fact the mother plant's been outside for ages, there's no rot on the rhizome, which is so encouraging. So I'm just mixing some Soil Ninja base mix through with some chunky semi-hydro. Just because Sansevieria is a succulent, and this kind of acts in the same way as adding like grit or sand into your mixed wood and just allows it to drain better. And particularly for a plant that can be quite susceptible to root rot, this is a really good idea. So with the cuttings and the pups potted up together, already that looks like a lovely full plant. And that is the plant reset. This is what I was aiming to do before I got lazy and put the mother plant outside. But yeah, because there's so much potted in here together, I think probably in the next 6 months or so, I'll need to give this plant a bigger pot. But for the time being, I'm really, really happy with that. Okay, and the next one is one that I don't even really know where I'm going to start with, if I'm being honest. So it's my Rhaphidophora foraminifera, which I have got the main section of here. It was much taller. I chopped it up and I propagated a section of it a while ago. And now the section that I chopped up and propagated has grown almost as big as that section, and this is what it's looking like. And I've kind of been in two minds about what to do with both these sections for a while, and I haven't known, and I've just put it off and put it off and put it off. And I think probably what I would like to do is I'd like to remove this top section here of the plant that I propagated and kind of conserve that lovely like fenestrated growth and get that growing in the same pot as this one to make one full plant. And then the bottom section of this plant I will chop up and get rid of the cuttings, send the cuttings out to people that want the plant. That was the original idea ages ago. The plant then got thrips, if I remember correctly, and that's why I didn't end up chopping it up. But that feels like the best thing to do. And then when it comes to moss poles, I've spoken about my thoughts on moss poles recently, and I just don't want to do it if I don't have to do it. So what I'm thinking is I'm not going to bother extending the moss pole for the time being. I'm just going to let the plant grow and potentially mount something onto the wall for it to climb, like a piece of cork bark or something like that. I've realistically probably got at least a month or two to figure that side of things out because it's not growing that big yet. Let's set up and figure this out together. Right. So about 4 months ago, I put some sphagnum moss with a cup around it just here to try and get this section rooting. And it has rooted, which is good. So I'm gonna just chop the main stem of the plant at the top of the moss pole here. There we go. And now I need to try and undo the moss pole so that I can untangle these roots. The moss is a little bit dry at the moment, but in fact, you know what I should do? Because it's just gonna make life easier, is I should just hydrate the moss again. There's still some moisture in there, so hopefully it'll hydrate quite easily. Sometimes if you haven't hydrated in a while and the moss has gone like bone dry, it'll be quite hydrophobic, but it seems to be taking. Oh my goodness, I can actually see there's one ginormous root that is running like all the way down the moss pole, and that is coming from the section I air layered, and I have a feeling that might be going all the way in to the substrate of the plant. So you know what? It's probably going to be easier to chop the entire plant up now. Oh, that's a scary thing to be doing. But yeah, we're doing it. Okie dokie. I don't know if the reservoir, it's got a bit of water in it, but I'm going to just lie the plant flat. This is probably going to be quite messy. So let's just try and undo the moss pole first. So I've got the main section that I'm wanting to conserve and keep. I've got that detached from the rest of the plant, which is good. This will be a nice section to pot up with my existing mother plant, because look at those aerial roots. They're really fantastic. See, I'm going to set that to one side just for a moment whilst I chop up the rest of the plant. And then we can pot all of that up together. If I pull the moss pole apart so you can see inside, do you see how many roots there are? I think this is going to be so difficult to do without actually cutting the moss pole off the plant. I know a lot of the time nowadays people are using front opening moss poles, and that is such a good idea. I should really start doing that myself, because yeah, you do lose moss poles a lot if you're having to cut them off. It's such a waste and it's such a shame. But I'm trying not to use moss poles as much anymore, so let's call this the last moss pole sacrifice, hopefully for a while. knows how rooty it is, I have literally removed the top of the moss pole and it's staying held upright just by like the shape of the roots, which is crazy. But now that I've got the plastic backing off the moss pole, in theory, it should mean that I can just kind of detangle the roots a little bit and make cleaner cuts. Because obviously every single section that I'm going to cut is going to have a little root system of its own to keep the plant going as it's chopped and as it forms like a stronger, more permanent root system, let's say. But it's not going to be the easiest job to do. As I say, I've known for a while that this is not an easy job, and I think that's just why I've looked at it and not done it. But also I have promised cuttings of this plant to various people, some of them you guys, so as soon as I get this done I can start sending them out, assuming it doesn't keep snowing. If that's the case, I'll keep hold of them for a while and then I will send them out. Try. Take the first cut. So, ooh, oh my god, this one has another crazy root. What are all these crazy roots? Oh my goodness. Well, that is an incredibly well-rooted cutting. So yeah, I'm going to just go down the moss pole and take cuttings like this, and then I will prop them all. I say prop them all, obviously they are kind of propped and rooted, but in preparation for sending out, I'm going to just put them into little containers, hydrate the sphagnum moss and let the root system kind of rehydrate and solidify a little bit, because obviously whenever you chop a plant, it is going to go through a kind of period of shock. It's going to have quite a lot of adjusting to do. And just keeping its environment as stable as possible and giving the roots lots of nice things to hydrate them is a good idea. So that's what I'm gonna do. Ooh. And this section here, for some reason, hasn't rooted at all. So that one I'll start as a brand new propagation. In fact, I'll put that in a different pile and I'll start that one from scratch. Okay, there's a condensed section of growth there at the bottom where the internodal spacing is so condensed, it's really hard to like chop individual cuts. So I think what I'll probably do is I will get rid of, or when I say get rid of, find a home for this complete bottom section of the plant. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of these can go out as individuals because they are all separate and they are all rooted. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put them in a container so that the moss can hydrate because it's a little bit dry and the roots can just kind of rehab a little bit. In fact, it's not the most glamorous of things, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put these sections into a carrier bag. And then I'm going to pour just a little bit of water from the watering can in there as well to just raise the humidity, hydrate the roots. And then I can just tie the carrier bag, leave these cuttings by the window. And I would say there might be a little bit of acclimation just because obviously they have had quite a big chop. But I would hope in the next week or so, these will be good to kind of be sent out, and I think they will do well. So that leaves us with the section that I removed. And what I'm going to do is I'm gonna have to, well, I mean, to be honest, I think this plant is due to go into a bigger pot anyway. I'm going to keep it in semi-hydro. I'm really enjoying growing it in semi-hydro, but I'm going to get a much bigger nursery pot, and I'm just going to pop this section. Obviously I'll take the moss off at first, but I'm going to pop this section in with the main root system of that plant, and then just kind of encourage it onto this pole. As I say, I'm not necessarily going to do moss pole growing long term, but I think that should just start the plant kind of climbing up. And basically I don't want it to look like two separate plants. I'd really like it if eventually it just looks like one really big, full, gorgeous plant. Which also probably means that finally I should take the cling film off this pole. This cling film has been there since before I went to Malvern, believe it or not, and it is just containing all the humidity, and it's made my life very easy. I may well put it back on afterwards, but for now it can come off. So I've got a much bigger pot that I think, considering how quickly the root system of this plant spreads, will do this plant well in the long run. And as I say, I'm going to use semi-hydro again, and the bag that I have put behind me contains semi-hydro that hasn't actually been washed yet. So what I think, instead of trying to wash out the whole bag, what I'm going to do is I'll probably pot the plant, and then I will take it outside, get the hose pipe, and give it a really, really good rinse through. I think that's what I'm going to do. I wonder if this is going to just easily pull off, or if it's going to be a bit of a struggle. There we go. Oh my God, whoa! So that doesn't hold together quite as well as I thought it was going to, but that is a hefty root system it's got in there. So yeah, I have no doubt that will just continue to grow and expand in the bigger container. And now I should have really done this first, but I just need to remove all the sphagnum moss around this root section so that I can pop this in at the bottom with the rest of the plant. Okay, that is the majority of the moss off, and I think I'm happy with that. So let's get a potting. I'm going to just use some garden Velcro to just secure this in place while it starts to attach. And actually, one thing that I thought as I was filling this up with semi-hydro is that although usually, yes, I would take it outside and I would flush it all through, we've had snow today, which I was not anticipating, and that probably means that it very likely means it's dropped below 0. So for now, I think I'm just going to use this with like a normal reservoir, and then in the next few days or so, or once I've checked the weather to find out what it's doing, then I will take it outside and I'll flush it through. And if it is just going to stay cold from now, which I hope it's not, but if it is, then I will fill buckets up from the sink indoors, take it outdoors and do the flush that way. That's what I think I'm going to do. But look, it looks so much fuller at the bottom, and hopefully now, as the plant continues to grow and this section kind of catches up, I will just have a really beautifully full plants going all the way up to the top. I have to think about where I'm going to grow this plant long term. I know I was saying about getting it to climb the walls in here, but I just see this getting so big that maybe I'll have to rethink my plans. I can play about with styling it on a different day, but that is a job that I have needed to do for so long, and I'm so glad I've finally done it. I'm gonna need to do a little bit of rearranging now, even if this isn't a long-term plan, just because the plant actually, I don't think is gonna fit in the spot it was in before anymore. So what I am thinking of doing is moving my Muser and my Alocasia Regal Shield, Yoli, mind out. Yeah, moving these plants here over to where it was before, and putting that plant there, and it can just grow up the wall there. I think for now that's gonna probably work best. Muser has actually got so big now that I'm not entirely sure where it's going to fit. Apart from back up on the table. As a short-term solution, I think that may have to do. And I'll have a proper rearrange and jig about of things soon. I'll put it on my to-do list. I just realised I didn't complete 2 of the jobs that I said I would, and if I don't do them now, I will probably not do them for about a month. So I'm going to just get the Raffletephora foraminifera cutting, propping in sphagnum moss. And although I know, you know what, actually, I was going to say, although I know this one's going to be a nightmare to untangle the roots in sphagnum moss, but I'm just going to go in with water, like I originally said. it'll root really easily in there. If you look at all those bumps on the stem, all of those are points where it could root from. So I'm just going to pop it into a container of water and allow my life to be a little bit easier. Go. And then I will just fill this up with water, pop it in, put it on the windowsill, and I would have thought it'll probably be rooted in the next month or so. Hoya's very quick to root, and then I will decide how I'm going to grow the plant from there. But then, going back to my list, up next is my Hoya meredithii. And if you watched my video where I was prepping my plants before I went away on holiday earlier this year, you might remember I took this one off the windowsill in the living room, and it was like I didn't know if this plant was going to bounce back. It was so dry. All of its leaves were really crinkly, and I made the decision then to chop the entire plant up. I have just put it into water, and I don't think I've changed the water since then, hence why it is all green and full of algae. But the plant has rooted and it's putting out loads of new growth now, which is really encouraging, and I'm so glad that I did chop it because, like I say, it was not doing well before. But now I need to decide how I'm going to grow the plant long term, and I just am not really enjoying at the moment growing Hoyas on conventional trellises. I don't know why, like there's just something very man-made about growing them in that way that I don't know, I just don't like it. So I'm wondering how I can set this one up going forward in a way that I'm going to enjoy the look of the plant, but I'm still going to be putting measures in place in order to keep the plant happy. And I had some thoughts around how I could do this. I've seen people do trellises with kind of pieces of string and just encourage the tendril to go around the string, and I was like, that gives you a lot more adaptability in terms of like training your Hoya's vines and all of that sort of stuff without it getting leggy. So one of the things I considered, and I'll have to get it out of my cabinet, but I bought some stuff to start making my Millsbo terrarium cabinet, which, one thing at a time, Claire, I will do it, but right now, focusing on what we've got today, I bought some stuff for that, and one of the things I bought was kind of a cool piece of wood. It's almost like driftwood. I will show you. In fact, there's a couple. So this is what they look like. They're typically used for, I think, lizard enclosures, vivariums, stuff like that. And although I think they're probably both too thick in themselves for the Hoya to want to climb around straight away, I'm wondering if I could attach a little piece of string or something just for the time being, and then I could start to train the Hoya as it gets going. I think just from the off, I'd immediately prefer the look of that, you know? So why not give it a go, is what I say. So yeah, just take, I think I'm gonna go with this one just because it is more interesting and I think it looks quite cool. Also, of course, if I do really start to enjoy growing it like this and I decide to set it up in my terrarium cabinet, I can just literally take it out of its pot and put it in there as well. So yeah, let's try this. I've never done anything like this before, so we'll give it a go. So I would like to grow this Hoya again in semi-hydro if I can, just because I find it a really low maintenance way to grow Hoya and they just seem to do really well. Seeing as this is a smaller amount of semi-hydro I'm going to be using, I am gonna wash it out before I use it. I'm just going to do it in a washing up bowl with some water and a sieve. Okay, so I'm just gonna deciding on the nursery pot, and I think that's gonna be about right. Why do I feel like I'm about to make a massive mess? So it's got fantastic roots. As I say, they are a little bit on the green side. That's just a bit of algae, to be honest. I'm not worried about that. If they were really, really sludgy and green, I'd probably give them, I don't know, a rinse off or a little soak in hydrogen peroxide, but usually there's no cause for concern. It's only if it gets absolutely awful, it can stop your plants from absorbing the oxygen they need. But as I say, I'm not too worried. I'm just gonna fill in the gaps. Because what I'm using is woods, I decided not to put it into the semi-hydro just in case it starts to rot. I actually think this is probably cork, but I'm not entirely sure and I don't want to take that risk. So I thought what I would do is I would kind of just tuck it down the side. As I say, this is my first time doing something like this, so we'll see if it works. I'll be the guinea pig here and I'll tell you not to do it if it turns out awfully. So there's quite a gap between the cover pot and the nursery pot, so that will mean that I can kind of monitor the reservoir quite nicely there. And hopefully just slot this in. Let's see, that's okay. Might turn it the other way actually. Okay, so immediately my eye prefers the look of that to a trellis. I think it looks so much cooler, so much more interesting, and just so much more natural. That is really, like, I feel like my style, tastes and what I like the look of has changed in the last, or is it always changing, but particularly in the last kind of 6 months to a year. And I'm really wanting to make my space feel much more jungly and naturalistic. And I even spoke in a video recently about at some point maybe covering all of the white on my shelves with pieces of cork bark or something like that to make it feel a little bit more natural. But as I say, the thickness of the wood here, I think as it is probably too thick for the Hoya to climb alone. So what I'm going to do, I'm also wondering if perhaps I should tie this to the pot. Got some garden wire here. I'm just going to see if I can secure it to the pot so it doesn't kind of slip one way or the other. I'm so confused. How is this going to work? Okay, you know what? I think the short answer is that without a great deal of frustration, it might not be easy to tie this to the basket. It's not the same as tying a moss pole because this is significantly heavier. And bearing in mind, the task was to put up my Hoya meredithii. I don't want the entire afternoon turning into me battling with a piece of wood. So I think for now, I'm gonna set it up just by placing it there. It may come into contact with the water a little bit, and you know what, I'm gonna call this a test. If the wood starts to rot, I'm gonna obviously carefully monitor it over the coming months. If it starts to rot, I will know to not do it this way again, or to look into other ways of actually making it a little bit more secure. If it doesn't start to rot, then cool, I've discovered something awesome that I can continue to use for all of my plants moving forward. So right, let's just go back to exactly where we were 10 minutes ago. And then to encourage the Hoya to start climbing, I think I'll just run a little piece of macrame cords from the top to where the plant begins. And then hopefully it can just climb up like that. Let's give it a go. Right, so there we go. Piece of string running from the bottom of the pot up to the top. And now I'm just gonna use garden Velcro again, probably to just hold the, what do you call them? The tendrils, the bits that are looking for something to climb on the plant. I'm gonna just wrap them round in an anti-clockwise direction to help get them going. Hopefully secure them nice and easily, and then I will report back. Right, okay, early days, but that is what it's looking like. As you can see, I've just used little pieces of garden Velcro to just encourage it to start climbing. And the hope, obviously, eventually is that you won't see the string at all. You'll be able to just kind of get the plant going round, the branch, or you could then take the string and put it on something else. Yeah, let's see. And you know what, while I'm here, this is a plant that was on the list. This wasn't what I was planning on doing to the plants, but my Hoya latifolia sarawak, which is one of my favourite Hoyas, I've spoken about it for years. That one is trying desperately to put out new growth. Can you see this long leggy bit just there? And I made a pathetic attempt to trellis it with the trellis I hate a little while ago. So I'm like, seeing as I've got this here, why don't I try doing the exact same thing as I've just done? Again, I'm just gonna give it a go and see what happens. This might even be able to use this to just wrap it round because it's a little bit straighter. I don't know if that would be too thick. So in theory this works, however, the new section is going to run out of wood to climb, which means I have to do some kind of nifty extension, or accept the fact that maybe I've been defeated and this is not a job for today. This is one obviously that needs a trellis. And I really like the look of this. I can very much see myself putting all of my Hoyas onto trellises like this. In fact, maybe that will motivate me to do it soon. Maybe I will either forage loads of bits of wood or order loads more bits of wood, and maybe I'll make a full video on doing fun Hoya trellises. Okay, so this is what it's looking like. As I say, I think it looks really naturalistic, really cool, but it's not quite big enough, so that is to be continued. There's not a lot I can do about that now, apart from set it up in like a new way of growing on my shelves or something that I will likely have to undo. So for the time being, that is going to have to be parked. But I feel like I've discovered a potential new and exciting way of growing Hoyas that I'm looking forward to doing more of, so that's not a wasted effort. So the next thing I've put on my list is make a decision on the Begonia gueguensis, and this is one of my favourite begonias, if not my favourite right now. It's getting so big. Just look at the size of the leaves it's giving me now. And I propagated a section of this plant a while ago. I did it from leaf cuttings, which personally I have found work, like half leaf cuttings where you actually chop a leaf in half and like propagate it like peperomia, stick it down into moss or something like that. I found that works amazingly for Begonia rex, like a begonia that isn't a cane begonia, that has a structure more like this and not like a cane. However, for cane begonia, I have never managed to propagate a begonia in that way. So yeah, it worked well. I now obviously have multiple plants, and although I love this plant, I either need to combine and make a really, really full one, or I need to get rid of this one. And like when I say get rid of, it's very rare, I mean actually throw away. I'm going to London this weekend to see some friends and I will absolutely be able to give it to one of them. But, oh, I've been wanting to, I don't know why I hate making these kind of decisions. The bottom line is this needs a repot anyway. So what I think I'm gonna do is I think I'm gonna start the repot and see if the pot needs any more to fill it out, and if it doesn't, then I'll get rid of those cuttings. I think that's what I'm going to do. And this is the pot I'm thinking of going with. It's in just a jar at the moment, and this feels like a properly grown up pot. It's going to make the plant feel so much bigger, I think. I can just see it's got a leaf there that I'm taking off. But it should be, I'm going to do semi-hydro again, it should be a fairly easy transfer to make, seeing as there is already, or the plant is already in semi-hydro. I'm hoping I can just kind of take it out easily. Oh God, I was going to say, this is such a fragile plant. This is why I propagated it before. Got another leaf there now that I can propagate again, not be left in the same position as these ones. Right, come on, work with me. Really good roots as well. As you can see, it's holding all the semi-hydro together, which means that it's a nice, easy transfer over. And oh my God, it's so weird how sometimes literally changing the pots can just make such a difference, because already that feels like, I don't know, it's like just my imagination that immediately feels like such a big plant, to the point that actually the decision already seems kind of obvious. I think unless I want a duplicate of this plant in my collection, which to be honest I don't really think I do, I'm trying to be quite conservative about what I bring in and what I get rid of, because I don't know, this year I've just been trying to be better at that so that I don't feel overwhelmed. So yeah, let's fill it out and let's have a look. Wow, yeah, look at that. What a beautiful plant. As I say, I've known that this is one of my, not just favourite begonias, but favourite plants for quite a while. It's one that I am just obsessed with at the moment. But, oh, it feels like it's finally reached maturity. I feel so proud of it. I got this one probably about this time last year, actually. It was very kindly sent to me by someone, and it was a very little cutting at the time. India, who's begonia addict on Instagram, and I think she's got an Etsy shop as well. In fact, she does have an Etsy shop because it's where I originally got my begonia Sinbad from. Yeah, I bought so much from her last year that at Christmas she very kindly sent me some begonias, and this was one of them. So yeah, it has absolutely become my favourite, and I just feel so happy that it's doing so well. So I will use a cover pot here, and I'll create a little reservoir for the plant, and it can continue growing in the way it has been. And yes, I endeavour to get rid of some of these cuttings and give them to good homes this weekend. So yeah, decisions, good decisions. Right, let me go back to my list. And then this has been something that I've looked at for a really long time. It's an Anthurium hybrid, I believe. It is I was given it as an Anthurium papillilaminum, a pure papillilaminum tissue culture baby. I got this in an import that I was very kindly sent by, I think it was Aroid Asia. Again, I want to say around about this time last year, and the plant's done really well, but it is still growing in sphagnum moss in the little container that I put it in when I first got the plant, and like I say, that was like over a year ago now. So I think it is time to pot it up, and the only reason I've been reluctant to do this and I've been putting it off is I think just because it's going to make the plant feel so much bigger, like I just said about the begonia. Also, why am I sitting so far away from the camera? Yeah, like I just said about the begonia, I think as soon as you put a plant in a bigger pot, it immediately makes everything feel so much bigger, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I do feel like I'm running out of room. I've got a lot of very big plants now, and I know I made the perhaps not very wise decision to bring in a very, very big plant indeed recently, the Monstera Thai constellation. What is going to happen with that long term, I don't know. I didn't think that far ahead. But just a lot of my plants in general have grown to be very big, which I love and I'm proud of, but it does mean that I need to get quite creative with space. So I'm not gonna let that hinder me from giving this plant the best chance, because it is also putting out lovely growth. It deserves a bigger pot. So let's get in carefully, if I can. Oh my god, wow. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so I've just taken it out and look at what we're dealing with. That is so many roots, that is actually insane. So yeah, okay, I'm gonna take all the moss off this and then we will pot it up. I think I've said, in fact I know I've said many times recently that what I would really love to do is outside our back doors, I would love to extend this room, just because we don't really use the patio outside that much, and this is not a realistic thing, it would be expensive to do, but I'm just like, God, it would really mean that I could let all of my plants grow really big, and I know at some point further down the line I would probably hit this same situation again. I don't know, I really like being able to bring out the best of my plants without having to constantly chop them back, especially things like anthuriums when they get these big beautiful leaves. It would be heartbreaking to have to chop them back, you know? So basically, what I'm saying is I just want to grow all of the plants as big as I possibly can, and I want to live in a mansion. I guess that's what I'm saying. And of course, the other thing that I could do is I've got two here. I've got two potted in the same pot. I could give one away. And you know what? I'm seeing Emma next week, good growing. I could give one to Emma and she'd probably, would she really like it? I know she's having a bit of a downsize at the moment. What I will do is I will send her a picture of it after I finish filming this, and I'll see if she wants it. And if she wants it, I'll give it to her. And if not, I may well put a post out on my Instagram story or something and give it to one of you guys. Because I don't need to. I don't need to. It kind of looks like it might snow again. The sky is completely white. I can't believe it snowed so much earlier. We're probably getting into winter, aren't we? I can't believe how close Christmas is now. It is terrifying how fast this year has gone. I feel like I haven't actually, I'm sure I have, but I feel like I haven't got that many new plants this year. I think because when I moved into my old flat, that was the first time I'd ever lived by myself, had purely my own space, and I went absolutely crazy. I got so many plants. I was constantly doing unboxings, and I was like, a little treat to myself all the time. I absolutely filled the flat with plants and got to the point where I kind of couldn't fit any more in. And moving here to a bigger space, although yes, I have got more plants here and there, I don't think I've done, I definitely haven't filmed, I don't think, a single unboxing video since I've been here. I don't think I've really ordered myself any new plants. I know I've been out and about and got a few things here and there, but mainly I've actually been downsizing. I've been making space to be able to grow my existing plants bigger, and I've been getting rid of things. But that's felt like quite a healthy thing to have done, mental health wise. It's really allowed me to stay on top more. I know this whole video is getting on top of things I've been putting off, but I've always got those things even on a good day, you know. I'm very good at putting things off that I don't want to do. I pulled a bit too hard and I did rip some of the roots there, but that is the little plant. So that's the one that I will offer to Emma if she wants it. And then this here, it's not exactly like I'm losing anything by that little bit either, because this is just a massive section. This here is what I'm going to keep for myself. I'm just trying to break up the root system a little bit more, and then I will probably get it into a tower pot. You know what, take semi-hydro out, and I'm going to use the water I've got here to get the roots into and try and break them up a little bit more, because yeah, they are in a very tight ball at the moment. So I've got the majority of the moss off the roots, I think. Those are beautiful, beautiful roots. And yeah, I think this plant is going to do really well. So let's mix up something nice and chunky for it. Again, I'm going to use the Soil Ninja base mix. And I'm just going to mix in some chunky orchid bark in kind of probably like a 50-50 ratio-ish, maybe a little bit more soil to bark. I'm not too fussy, I'm just going off how it looks. So yeah, that's what it's looking like. And I'm in a bit of a dilemma, because if I want to use a tower pot for this plant, which with Anthurium I typically do like to do, I've only got the really small ones or the really big. And I think the really small is definitely going to be too small. It's almost not worth changing it out of that thing. So I either go with a normal nursery pot, which of course I could do. It's just that Anthuriums grow up quite a lot and it's useful to be able to kind of pack moss around them. Or, you know what, actually looking at it in the camera, I think this is probably going to be absolutely fine in this. Okay, cool, we're going big. Do what I always do, I'll pot it a little bit lower than I might do normally, and then I can always build it up as time goes on so that the root system isn't so overwhelmed going into a new system. Nice. So again, my goodness, it just suddenly feels like I've added a much bigger plant to my collection. And this is definitely not going to fit on the shelf that I had it on before anymore, which is a bit of a worry, because again, it means I'm now going to have to find more space for this plant. Ah, there's a common denominator here, isn't there? Or a common theme, should I say. But I guess we will figure that out. But apart from combining a couple of things that actually I don't have enough stuff to be able to do that with today, I have got some more in order actually, so I should be able to do that in the next few days. But that's everything the main things that have been on my list that I've been putting off. There's obviously several other projects like terrarium cabinet and stuff like that that I have been chatting about that I do just need to get on and do. But in terms of small steps, I feel like I've taken a pretty big leap today in tackling some of these things. So if you were doing stuff as well, I really hope you got loads done. I've had a lot of fun today actually, it's been lovely. So thank you for doing things along with me. If you are doing stuff, drop me a comment down below, let me know what you were doing, let me know how it went. And if you've got any ideas or suggestions for things that I could do differently in my collection to free up some space, do let me know. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next video.
Stay sexy, plant lovers.